Hey, ladies and gentlemen, happy Monday. It has been so long since I've done a live stream. I almost can't remember the last time I actually did a live stream. It's been that long. I don't know why. I started doing these podcasts with Cynthia Pooler and Jessica at Rad Futures, and I don't know, those I just kind of got lazy, I guess you could say. But welcome back, or I'm welcome myself back, or something. Hopefully, you've been paying close attention to this group and didn't need my daily podcasts to keep you abreast of the action. But maybe I'll give you just a quick, let's say, 6 month recap. So, since the beginning of this year, everything that we predicted last year has come true. I don't know if you remember when Donald Trump first took office. I wrote a paper. I wrote an article about what to expect with student loans that last year, and everything that I predicted last year, the few things that didn't come true last year came true this year. So, but I think most of them came true last year actually. So yeah, we are betting 1,000%. We predicted mayhem and carnage and a collapsing, out of control, Byzantine, cruel, vicious, predatory loan scam in its end stages. And lo and behold, that's exactly where we're at. So the big numbers are this. This time, let's say last year, the non-payment rate for student loans was around 70%, which is outrageous. I mean, what are we even talking about anymore? That was this time last year. Today, according to the latest data, 2026, I think spring, 74.5% is the new number. 74.5% of all student loan borrowers are not making payments on their loans. And you'd have to ask them why that is. I think most of them, the large majority, just can't pay. I think a very significant portion of them have paid and paid and paid and paid three, four, five, six times more than they borrowed, and they're just done. They're not going to throw their good money after all that bad money anymore. Um, and so yeah, I think those are basically the two categories. Uh, what are we even talking about, guys? 75% not paying. The lending program is, I said it was catastrophically failed last year. In fact, I was saying that it was on the brink of catastrophic failure in 2019. We tipped over into that failure with the pandemic in 2020. And now we are just way beyond failed. I mean, the body is on the body is on the slab at the morgue, and we're poking through it at this point. It's the Wild West, guys. Nobody knows how this is going to go. I can tell you this, that the bad guys, the lending system, the Department of Education and its crony contractors, all these vermin collection companies, all these influencers on social media, these paid influencers are trying to make a buck by conning people into rehabilitating, consolidating their loans out of default. Terrible thing to do, by the way. Hopefully, you've been paying attention to the group. 75% of everybody who consolidates or rehabilitates their loans out of default wind up in default again. Yet, turn on your TV or go to any Forbes magazine article or whoever, and you will see right now that everybody and their brother is trying to get defaulted borrowers to sign on the dotted line, reanimate their defaulted loan through consolidation or rehabilitation. And yeah, 75%, and that's pretty old data, that's over 10 years old. 75% of all these loans will wind up in default again. But I think it's far higher than that now because the numbers are just so much larger. But the nuts and bolts of this predatory loan scam have not changed one bit. So maybe the biggest thing this year that is happening far worse than last year is that now that the loans are turned back on, now that the save deferment pause is over, all the loans that were going to default are now, we are now in the middle of the largest wave of student loan defaults in the nation's history. So the numbers I have, and I only go by the Department of Education, show that around 6.1 million people or something are in default. I'm seeing reports that are based on survey data from the New York Fed that the actual number is about 9 million. I tend to think it's hard to say. New York Fed is pretty spotty data. I would be very comfortable saying that 8 or 9 million people are in default now. But remember, guys, that number that they claim for the official default rate, I'm saying 6.1 million right now based on Department of Education. That number is low by 20% because 1 in 5 people who default on their student loans wind up consolidating or rehabilitating their loans out of default. So whatever the Department of Education says, I think it's 6.1 million, you have to times that by 25% or 20% to understand the true number of people who have defaulted on their loans. So we could be well over 10 million people at this point. And some people that I trust a lot, like people who, like the guy who ran the federal student loan program under Donald Trump, I have a lot of respect for him, he's an honest man. He expects that 20 million people are going to be in default over this next year. And I see nothing to doubt that claim. So we are in very uncharted territory here, guys. You kind of have to look up at the sky and laugh at some point. Lending systems fail from time to time, sometimes spectacularly. I'm laughing. I probably would be crying, but why not laugh, right? I mean, come on, this is just stupid at this point. Everybody in Washington, D.C. knows that this loan scam is finished. By all rational metrics. And, I think probably what bothers me the most about this whole thing is that the mainstream media has just gone from marginally okay over the past 20 years, like kind of good, they actually did some real reporting, to like almost non-existent. Like journalism almost doesn't exist in the mainstream media anymore. And I could give many examples, but just Google student loans and do a Google News search or whatever. Do a news search. And like right now, for example, 5 out of 8 articles will be about this stupid interest rate reduction that the Department of Education is advertising for people who go on auto pay. I'm not going to say much more about that other than that it's propaganda, and it shows that the Department of Education is getting desperate because almost nobody, is paying on their loans. And that's probably only going to get worse. 25% of the people are paying today. I think it's going to probably go down to 20%, aka 80% of people are not going to be paying by maybe 6 months from now. We're in uncharted waters, guys. It's the Wild West. All the bandits out there, they know that the jig is up. And everything that I see them doing, including the Department of Education with this interest rate thing, is just trying to get as much money out of people before, while the getting is still good. So watch your wallet, guys. And, we get inundated. Oh, I'm very glad to report that we are seeing a huge groundswell of new members on our Facebook group. That's another reason that I did this live stream. I wanted to say welcome to all the new members. I used to do these live streams like every day, and I think I'm going to start doing them more regularly now, particularly now that winter is over. I still have my winter fur on, but I can't really do the live streams in the wintertime up here in northern Wisconsin. But yeah, we are seeing huge growth in new members on this group. And I think that's a sure sign that we're doing something right here, guys. All we've ever done on this group is tell the truth as clearly as we could discern it. And we are still doing that. We haven't changed one iota. We're still telling the truth, and we're still calling for the most rational solution we can possibly think of. For many years, this group started the push for the cancellation of student loans by executive order. Like all the stuff that we saw from 2020 to 2023 or 4, um, all that loan cancellation stuff started on this group. I kid you not. Like way before Elizabeth Warren or Chuck Schumer or anybody was talking about canceling student loans by executive order, we started our petition at change.org/cancel student loans. That petition grew and went viral. We were at like 500,000 signatures. Then suddenly, Elizabeth Warren jumped on the bandwagon, and we're glad she did, but she totally screwed it up, like on purpose. And Nancy Pelosi totally sabotaged the feeble effort that Joe Biden tried. I'm glad that the idea took off, and we deserve a lot of credit for that. But I really hate what the Democrats did with it. And then the Republicans are, of course, just evil. But right now, today is the most growth that we've seen on this group forever. You know, we were sitting at around 4,000 people from 2008 through like 2016. And then I think we got up to like 7,000 or so by 2019. And then we jumped up to 20,000 around 2020. And here just in the past, like since the beginning of this year, I think we've added 4,000 or maybe even more people. We're adding around 100 people a day, which is around 3,000 people a month. So tell everybody you know about this group, guys. We've been doing this for many, many, many years. And finally, all of our good, honest, uncorrupted good work is finally starting to get around. I think a lot of people are finally starting to understand that almost everything you see out there in the zeitgeist on social media, etc., it's fake. It's prop up. Even the student loan activist groups out there, like Student Debt Crisis or Strike Debt, those people are fake, guys. They're fake. They are aligned with the student loan industry. Those two that I just mentioned have very close ties to the Democratic Party, by the way. And shame on the Democrats. We hate both parties on this group. Let me just say, we are a fiercely nonpartisan group. The Republicans are evil, and they are vicious, and they are cruel. But that does not make the Democrats good, guys. And let me just give you the quick Cliff's Note version of why I'm saying that. The Democrats have been promising to return bankruptcy protections to student loans for many, many years. Since 2020, they were promising to cancel student loans by executive order. Again, what we called for. Joe Biden faked the loan cancellation. Nancy Pelosi and her friends sabotaged that feeble cancellation effort that he tried. And he didn't try very hard. He used the wrong law. And that's a longer conversation. But, you know, the Democrats had full power from 2020 to 2024. They won that 2020 election on the strength of Joe Biden's promises to cancel student loan debt and to return bankruptcy rights to the debt. And they botched the cancellation on purpose, in my humble opinion. You may have your own. But they blatantly betrayed us on returning bankruptcy. Okay, sorry about that. So the Democrats betrayed their true fealty to the colleges with everything that we saw Joe Biden do from 2020 to 2024. The Republicans obviously are evil. I don't think I really even have to say that. The big, beautiful bill was a gut punch to student loan borrowers. We are a nonpartisan, apolitical group, but we are very partisan and politically aware. And I can tell you that the Republicans are going to be eviscerated in the midterms this year if they don't, at a minimum, return bankruptcy protection to the loans. And I would even suggest strongly, and we are pushing for this, I would suggest strongly that they return bankruptcy, but also hold the wealthiest colleges, maybe the wealthiest 50 or so, maybe 100 colleges, put them on the hook to pay, reimburse the government for bankruptcy discharges. So that would be about $6 billion per year. The endowment of Harvard University is going to grow by more than $6 billion this year. That's just one college. So Harvard could pay for the entire nation's bankruptcy discharges on student loans. and their endowment would still grow. So we're not asking Harvard to shoulder the entire burden. We think we can spread that out over 50 or 100 so-called hedge fund colleges, and they can easily pay the cost. Um, and I say this every live stream that I do, and I'm going to look to see if I can see this current live stream. If you have any questions or comments, throw them up. If I don't see them now, I'll answer them later. This whole thing comes down to bankruptcy, guys. Bankruptcy sucks. Nobody wants to file. I get it. You don't want to file for bankruptcy. I want to file for bankruptcy. It's a terrible thing to have to do. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a constitutional right, and it is leverage. Right now, we have zero power, and this has been true for the 22 years that I've been doing this. As long as we have zero power, the people in Washington are going to do whatever they want, and we have to shut up and take it. So they can screw you around, inflate your loan balance without reason or rhyme. They can lose your payments. They can miscount your payments. They can bungle on purpose your student loan account. They can play all sorts of tricks and traps and games. And this is what they do. These are not good people, guys. Department of Education and its crony contractors are not good people. That's why bankruptcy is so important. Not because everybody can rush out and file. That's not going to happen. It never happened back when student loans were treated the same as all other loans. The student loan discharge rate back when it was the same for student loans as all other loans, the discharge rate was about 0.2%. So there's not going to be a massive wave of filings. But what will happen is we will get the leverage of bankruptcy returned. And without anybody actually having to file for bankruptcy, the Department of Education is going to have to cancel huge amounts of the debt. They're going to have to write off interest. They're going to have to negotiate fair and reasonable settlements with people. They're going to have to run the income-driven repayment plans in a ways in a good faith manner, such that most people hopefully will make it through, rather than 90% of the people being disqualified out for stupid reasons like, not literally not dotting their I's, or maybe using the wrong colored ink on their income verification forms. These are true documented examples of reasons that people have been kicked out of the income-driven repayment plans. The Department of Education does not want to cancel loans, and they will only do it kicking and screaming and as a last resort if they can find a reason not to. Well, with the leverage of bankruptcy back on our side, without even one person having to file, nobody has to file. Massive, draconian, sweeping reforms will become reality for us and for everybody. And they will probably tighten the lending requirements, which, in my humble opinion, and I think most people on this group as well, is a very good thing. The price of college should be much, 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 much lower. And, boo-hoo for the colleges. I'm sorry, but I just don't feel sorry for them. I've seen the colleges in action, particularly the upper crust colleges, such as my alma mater, which takes something like $500 million in student loan funds every year. The colleges can well afford to tighten their belts a little bit. Certainly, the wealthiest colleges can afford to reimburse for the $6 billion tiny measly dollars, and that is measly compared to the hundreds of billions of dollars they take in every year in student loan money. The wealthiest colleges can easily afford it. But I'm starting to repeat myself. Let me just say, guys, whether you would ever or never file for bankruptcy, we've all got to fight for bankruptcy. There's no good reason for anybody to be fighting for student loan cancellation today. Not in these politics. The big, beautiful bill killed the president's ability to cancel student loans by executive order. It was a big, ugly bill, and the Republicans ought to be ashamed of themselves. Donald Trump is ruining the day that he signed that legislation, because I guarantee you, President Trump is going to want to cancel a lot of student loan debt before he leaves office. But whatever, man. I'm just telling you what the facts are, and the facts are that student loan cancellation is not a reality today, and it will not be a reality with the next president either, because we saw what the Democrats did with that. The Democrats, they said they wanted cancellation, but they were lying. Their true fealty to the colleges was exposed for all to see. Their true fealty to the Department of Education, the people in Washington, it's a uniparty thing, guys. People in Washington, D.C. love the idea of non-tax revenue, the $110 billion in profit that the student loan program generates for them. They love it, and I don't care what their political stripes are. This thing is out of control. It's wrecking the country. It's probably wrecking your life and your livelihood. 85% of all borrowers will never be able to repay their loans. That's not coming from me. That's coming from Wayne Johnson, and just look at the data and you can see for yourself. So it is probably the most important time it is the most critical time in the life history of our little group here, studentloanjustice.org. It is more important today that everybody stops sitting around waiting and watching and worrying and wringing your hands and wondering what they are going to do with student loans. What they are going to do with student loans, as long as you sit there and watch glassy-eyed, what they are going to do is what they have always done, and figure out a way to keep you on the hook forever paying, even if you're only paying a little bit. That's fine for them. If you're paying for the rest of your life, and then you finally kick off with a $500,000 student loan balance, as long as you were paying them the whole time, they don't mind that a bit. They have made a king's ransom in profit on this loan scam, and they would like that to continue for the rest of your natural life. As long as you sit there and wait and watch and worry and wonder and don't do anything, that's unfortunately, guys, what's going to happen. Oh, your loans will eventually be canceled, but it won't be in your lifetime. So we don't want to go to that dark dystopian place, guys. We're a better country than that. What will work is us fighting for the return of bankruptcy rights to the loans. There is strong bipartisan support in Congress for this. And the most important action item I have for you tonight, and I'm sorry I've gone on a little longer than I was thinking, but I've had to pack a lot in. It is very critically important that you, sitting there, get us into a meeting with your House representative, your congressman or woman. We've met with quite a few, less than a dozen, but more than 5, I think, at this point. We've got a couple dozen in the offing. But guys, there's 435 members of the House of Representatives. So honestly, we should be doing 3 or 4 meetings every single day from here on through the end of summer and even into the fall, if we want to meet with every single one of them. And we do. But that will only happen when you make it happen. We can do all the talking. I've done all the research. We've got all the data. We can put together a brilliant presentation for your House rep, or their staff is fine as well. But you're the constituent. You have to make that meeting happen. I can't call, Thomas Massey's office and say, "Hey, I'd like to meet with you." We'll say, "Who are you? What's your zip code?" And my zip code is not Kentucky. And they will say, And that's as far as that's going to go. You, being a constituent, can make that meeting happen. And like I said, you don't have to do the heavy lifting. We will do all or most of the talking if we have to. Will be very pleasant, I promise. I do this all the time. And so far, by the way, our meetings are going very well, I should say. And thanks to everybody who's kicked in, who has pitched in to make these meetings happen up to this point. You need to join them. This is on you, guys. We are not one of the fake groups that sit you down and feed you popcorn and shuck and jive and pretend like we're fighting. That's not real. That's fake. That's fake activism. Real activism is everybody on this group fighting. We're not asking you to do a whole lot. A couple phone calls, you can get a meeting scheduled. And I will happily bend my schedule like a monkey if I have to accommodate all of the meetings. I will do this 12 hours a day if I have to, from 6 in the morning Eastern to 6 at night Pacific time. That's fine. We're good at this. But it all starts with you. And as long as you sit there and do nothing and let yourself be hypnotized and mesmerized and immobilized by the fake groups like Student Debt Crisis, or if you hang out on the Reddit group and let all those fake snake predators um, mesmerize your mind and play little psyops on you. Those people on the Reddit group, by the way, are also just terrible. Those people are literally employees of the student loan companies that are probably paid to moonlight on that board. They're not trying to help you guys. They're trying to force you into a compliant state of mind. They're trying to. It's a psyop, guys. Put it that way. It's the student loan industry massaging your mind and trying to break you down. So yeah, guys, 90% of everything you see on your computer regarding student loans is nonsense. It's propaganda, or it's these psychological operations, or it's these fake accounts on Twitter and Facebook. And their goal is to weaken your mind and distract you away from the truth, which is that the founding fathers called for uniform bankruptcy laws. They called for uniform bankruptcy rights in the Constitution, ahead of the power to declare war, ahead of the power to raise an army, ahead of every right listed in the Bill of Rights. The founders did that because they wanted to avoid the student loan scam that we now find ourselves embroiled in. And they gave us the tools that we needed, but we've got to fight. They fought, they died. We've got to at least fight, hopefully not die. This fight is very easy to win. I've never lost an argument, not even one, in the 22 years I've been doing this. Our argument is nuclear strength, and that begins with the return of bankruptcy rights, guys. And I hope people out there who've been on this group for any length of time, and particularly even the new people, I hope that you're finally starting to understand that, yeah, the loan cancellation thing, that's done. We will see student loan cancellation, very broad, very deep, very meaningful, when we get the leverage of bankruptcy returned, and nobody will have to file. But it all starts, love it or hate it, with the return of standard bankruptcy protections to student loans. So the very last thing I'm going to say here tonight, we need donations, guys. I started a fundraiser last September. The goal was to raise 10 months worth of operating funds, which was $30,000. 10 months ago, and I'm very glad and proud to say that we have raised around $24,000, I think $500 at this point. So the way it's looking, guys, is that we will raise the $30,000, and it is going to carry us through one whole entire year of fighting this fight and keeping the lights on here at studentloanjustice.org. So thank you all to everybody that helped. You can see our GoFundMe up or down on this group, and you can see our progress. We're 82% of the way done with our fundraiser, guys. You know, if even like I think if 300 people donated $20 tonight, we'd be done fundraising through September. So that's one whole year at what is that, like $2,700 a month in funding. And that keeps me alive, by the way. That pays for my entire life, everything, food, shelter, clothes, electricity, everything. It pays for the website. It pays for all our subscriptions. It pays for all the costs associated with keeping the grassroots group up and running. So you're getting a very good bang for your buck. I think most will agree. I hope that you will help. And I suck at fundraising. I truly hate it, and I'm truly bad at it. So I hope that you will just please help. Thanks to everybody who has. And I will try and do these live streams more often going forward. Now that the weather's better, I really have no excuse. But hang in there, guys. You found the right place. If you're new to the group, welcome. This is as good as it gets. We are not only the tip of the spear in the actual, not pretend, actual fight for student loan justice. We are the spear. We're not only the eye of the storm, we are the storm. I'm telling you guys, you have no idea how important this group is. So spread the word about it, and I think we're going to see some very, very good things coming up. Not only this week, but I think by the end of the summer, I think we're going to move a mountain. We've done it before, and everybody who's been on this group since 2020, you remember what we did with loan cancellation. We need to do that again. We need to get our backs into it. The difference today, between today and 2020, is we have far, far, far more people on this group today than we did in 2020. I think we maybe had 7,000 or 8,000 people in 2020. We've got 5 times that today. So everybody within the earshot of my voice, I hope you're listening to me, and I hope that you will make it a personal promise to yourself to don't sit and wait and watch. Actually get your back into this fight. It's fun to fight this fight. I sleep like a baby at night, and you will too. And as I said, our argument is rock solid, nuclear strength. It's only getting stronger, but we got to fight, and that starts with you. So I will leave it there at that. Good luck. I will check in hopefully by the end of the weekend for sure, and keep you posted. Things are happening very quickly right now. But I will keep you posted, and we'll see you real soon.